So the most recent fast track you were granted was for the therapeutic product, the Cu-67 SAR-bisPSMA. So I think it'd be great to get a recap of the data with the Secure program ongoing. You've finished the single and multi-dose escalations. You're now into the expansion. I guess just a recap of where you're at, and then we can kind of speak to, where you're moving forward.
So Mel, you cover us as an analyst, right? And that data, and it's quite interesting. We had some feedback from people that saying, "Oh, it was rather average." I don't know what we have to do to show that the data is amazing. Now, let's put it into context. Our competitor is Pluvicto, and we got the PSMA-4 data to go against directly. We only see in the market, and this seems controversial sometimes when I say this, but we only see Pluvicto as the competitor. They say this is a busy space, there's lots of people. Well, didn't work out so well for INT, probably in both settings. We'll see what the Curium data looks like. But really that's a same, potentially with an inferior product to Pluvicto. So we still see Pluvicto as the lead there. I've discussed the antibodies ad nauseum, that old data. We wish, I'm going to say it again, we wish them the best of luck, okay? Where we are, we went out to build a Pluvicto buster. We wanted to overcome a couple of the issues, the uptake and retention in the lesions. We got that 2 to 3 times the amount of uptake in the lesions, and it's internalized. A lot of that's internalized over time. And we did a dose escalation. And once again, I received some feedback from retail saying it's really arrogant that I say that. Who else is doing dose escalations? Please tell me. And dose optimization. Now, we've got the best people involved with our company. Louise Emmett, Oliver Sartor, and we did it correct. But this is a new molecule, and we started to realize that even at 4 gigabecquerels, single dose, 2 of those patients, pre-chemo, PSA 50s. Now that's an exceptional response whether you look at any other data. Small numbers, we go to 8 gigabecquerels, single dose, all 3, PSA 80s, PSA 95s, dose twice, first patient we ever dosed twice, complete response.
Yep.
We did the 12 gigabecquerels in the sickest patients of all. Now, these are patients that have failed every line of therapy.
Yeah, this is salvage.
We're at the end of the line of all the new products, right? ADTs, ARPs, PARPs, chemo, right, as a mixed group. And still phenomenal data, even though we're so far back in the line, even though the majority are single dose. And then we tried to push the safety as much as we could because we didn't know how safe we are. You've got more uptake. Is there a safety issue? We pushed it at 12 gigs, multi-dosing patients, so much higher than Pluvicto itself. Yeah. At this time, we just saw that grade 4 thrombocytopenia, one patient who'd been multi-dosed with Pluvicto and failed Pluvicto. Okay. And now looking at that and our rationale of moving forward at 8 gigabecquerels is the question internally, and I use this analogy a couple of times, the Muhammad Ali analogy. It floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Safety of a beta, but really the hit of an alpha. And we look at INT actinium and that sort of work where you have the safety issues, but they destroy everything, obviously, that they hit. With us, we have, when we talk about salivary glands, offsite targeting, those sorts of things, great outcomes, a little bit of heme tox, but at 8 gigabecquerels, nice and safe.
Yeah, so is it kind of that the 8, you kind of step it back and the additional dose wasn't really worth bang for buck because you were getting excellent data, and which is what a dose escalation's for, right?
You want to dose optimize.
Yeah.
You want to hit as hard as you can, looking at the safety profile. Now, when you're talking to clinicians, it's incredibly important to have a safe product because Pluvicto is safe.
Yep.
So when you're going in with a more toxic product like an alpha or those sorts of things, you're going to find it hard to get into early stage disease. We want to be a Pluvicto buster. We want to be safe and highly efficacious. That's our goal. So that's resulted in a pretty phenomenal outcome. So moving into that pre-chemo space, we knew the ball was going there And what happens? Pluvicto gets approved in that space.
Yep.
Who would have thought?
Yep.
Right? So now that market 3 times, 4 times greater than post-chemo. And so our data there, even though a bulk of the patients were single dose and some at 4 gigabecquerels, single dose, we still had 12 out of 13 patients respond, 35% as the lowest. And sure, it was actually 13 patients had drop in PSA. But we're talking about meaningful drops.
Exactly, like 35 being kind of the minimum.
Cut off, that's right. And having a phenomenal response in these patients. The bulks are in, once again, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, majority of which under single dose. Now, that's a phenomenal outcome. There's no way did I have expectations? Well, in my wildest dreams, yes. That's a great outcome. And where the market is going there, it's perfect for us to jump in on, supply chains, things like, we don't think lutetium, that's a lot of lutetium to make, given the world's lutetium was already doing post-chemo.
Yeah.
There's a great opportunity.
The market just got way, way bigger.
Great opportunity to compete. And there's been a reach out, we want to even go earlier stage. So we've received fast track designation, everything post first line. All right. So we want to push the limits of this, given it's a safe product, and clinicians who work with us want to do that as well. Let's get to earlier stage. Now, that's a massive market opportunity for us with what we see today, what we believe is a superior product, even to the number one player in the space.
Yes.
As I said, we only see one competitive player here at the moment, Pluvicto. They're in the market. They're a beta. Betas are great with humans. We're in a beta. So we don't see the alphas then as competition. We see the alphas much later stage. And I think really the industry is starting to see that. Even the FDA is starting to really push back on some of the safety issues there. Betas are great. SAR-bisPSMA was built to be a Pluvicto beta, and the data to date looks great.
So then if we think about Secure, you finished the dose optimization phase, you're now into the cohort expansion, and you made some changes there. You made that cohort larger, but then also a choice to, a lot of the other peers that might be in development, and even, Pluvicto has often been coupled with standard of care, but that's encompassing so many different things, right? Like ARPIs and ADT and chemo and all those things. You've made a decision to just pick one ARPI, enzalutamide. It's quite purposeful. I guess everyone is keen to understand that rationale. Why choose just that? I suspect you've got some investigators who are very keenly pushing that. But I guess, understanding the choice and what that also sets you up for, in the event of completion of Secure with how the protocol sits today now.
Yeah, so it's still not a massive cohort. 24 patients, a handful of those being ARPI, enzalutamide. We already had a read. Once again, this is the great thing with working with incredibly brilliant people. What the phase 3 Pluvicto data, what it was looking like when you had the people who were using enzalutamide in that, having far better outcomes. Louise's Enza-P trial, we know they work hand in hand. We know there's in that patient population specifically, and we're going to look broader than that, but in that patient population specifically seems to increase the expression of the target, and you get much better outcomes. And the safety profile actually even looks better.
Looks good, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So we know that's where the ball is going. And so we wanted to be where the ball is going, and with what we think, as I said, a superior product, hand in hand with that to see what the difference is. And it's only a small cohort, but we want to see what that plays out as, because this needs to build into a phase 3 clinical trial. So
you want to test all those questions as much as you can now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And then we'll recruit as quickly as we can over that next year, right, to get all the patients done, and earlier if we can, as I said, and to get that data. Now that's a single arm.
Yep.
You know how we like to report. We're a little bit different to other companies. We don't hide our data. We don't wait for opportunity. No, it's transparent to us. Safety is imperative still. And then efficacy readouts on these patients as we build an increasing patient cohort. That will continue to read out, so the market will be fully informed as to how this asset is progressing.
Right.
And then looking to build in that, as I said, the phase 3 clinical trial.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. So those timelines, as you mentioned, that's kind of across the balance of this year and next year, but it's not like you'll go away and the market won't get anything. We'll have information as that progresses.
Our shareholders need to know. what's going on when it comes to those. So we're not in a phase 3 yet. Phase 3s are closed.
It's
we
different.
Don't have access to the data.
Yep.
It's run a specific way, and that's how it's meant to be. It's
correct,
independent, arm's length. There's no feedback of information. This is different. This is a single arm. We want to make sure these patients are healthy, happy, and to see what those responses are like, particularly continuing to compare ourselves to Pluvicto.
And now you have the best comp, right, with PSMA-4. Fresh data,
yep.
a new approval.
And the data we've seen to date, we see, even though it's small numbers, head-to-head, and a few people have done some analysis of this, a few of the analysts in the market to show that we are, at this point in time, small numbers, but showing superior numbers to Pluvicto. Let's see if we can continue that on. Open book.
Yep.
And let's get that out. Now, I can't do that, and I apologize for that. I can't do it for Clarify. I can't do it for Amplify. I can't do it for Secure 2.0.
You jeopardize the programs.